Sometimes you watch a film and you just think to yourself, am I made of stone? Why am I not finding any of this funny? And with The Fall Guy, I was definitely in that situation. This film is categorized as an action comedy, but I'll definitely throw romance in there as well. And so we have these three genres being juggled around, and in terms of where it succeeds, action is definitely in first place, followed by romance, and then with comedy in last position, because I didn't laugh once. In this film, as our leading stars, we have Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, who are still riding high after that whole Barbenheimer craze from last year, where we had Ryan Gosling appearing in Barbie and Emily Blunt appearing in Oppenheimer. Ryan Gosling plays Colt Seavers, who is a Hollywood stunt performer who works as a stunt double for famous action star Tom Ryder, who's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. After a stunt goes wrong, he gets severely injured, and so he says goodbye to his career, as well as his girlfriend Jodie, who worked on that same film as a camerawoman. However, 18 months later, Colt receives a call from a film producer asking if he'd like to work on a film which is taking place in Sydney, Australia, and that film happens to be Jodie's directorial debut. And so with that, you can see where the pieces lie now for this romance to unfold, where we have someone trying to win back a former lover and try and, get them to understand that they deserve a second chance. But there is plenty of drama going alongside this, because the action star Tom Ryder has gone missing, and so this film also includes a mystery. It's also worth noting that this film is loosely based on the 1980s TV series of the same name, which starred Lee Majors. With The Fall Guy, it's got an interesting premise, but when we start getting into meat of things, it seems to have a real scattergun approach about what it wants to do and what it wants to focus itself on. Ryan Gosling can carry it through some difficult moments with his charisma, but it can only do so much. There is chemistry between him and Emily Blunt, but that romantic chemistry never really worked for me, and I felt like these two would have been a lot better suited as a friendship, where we could see them bicker back and forth, a bit like what we saw with the Oscars, where we had that banter surrounding Barbenheimer.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey
kidding.
did not paint his abs on to
This
get
is
nominated.
insane, Emily. This has got to stop. We have to squash this.
So yeah, from a romance standpoint, it was pretty uninspiring, but when it comes to the action, that's where this film does succeed, because there were some pretty cool sequences that showcased the talents of stunt performers. And it was refreshing to see the work stuntmen do be highlighted here, because it's true they are very much underappreciated, like many other people who work in the film industry. But now let's get into the comedy and the severe lack of it, because this film does try to be funny, and it really does try to be funny. Like, there are times where you're just thinking, oh, that's just a bit cringy. Why are you overplaying this joke? It wasn't funny in the first place. Why are you trying to repeat it over and over? Then we have scenes like when a guy is in an action scene saying references midway through, saying things like The Rock, and he does like a rock move. It's like, okay. Then we have Ryan Gosling's character speaking to Emily Blunt's character midway through what's supposed to be a life-threatening action scene, saying things like, do you want to go for dinner tomorrow night? So a very casual conversation mixed in there with a high tense moment. It's supposed to be a funny contrast. No, it's just fucking stupid.
Let's not take the piss here.
I certainly wasn't.
Well, I think you are.
I'm getting pretty sick of this cringy, awkward dialogue being thrown out there as a comedy moment, because on most occasions, the cinema just reacts in the same way, and that is with dead silence. I was looking forward to seeing this film because Ryan Gosling has shown himself in the past to be pretty good when it comes to comedy. Like we saw in Barbie, he was very good as Ken, and also in The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe. But in that film, I feel like having that partner there with him, being able to bounce jokes off, worked very well. This film, he didn't really have that. He had like a dog to bounce off some jokes with, and there were some characters who came in and out now and again, but they didn't really stay for the long haul. And like I said, he didn't really have that sort of thing with Emily Blunt, because that was more focused on the romantic side of things. And then if we look at what he did with Ken, there was just so much there to play with. There's all the other Kens there as well, and he could just really get lost in that role.
And the Kens really are just better at ruling than the Barbies ever were.
Well, we just took patriarchy and, made a patriarchy.
The director of The Fall Guy is David Leitch, and he's a pretty appropriate director actually, because he's done stunt work in the past. But in terms of his other past work, he's done films like Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2 and Bullet Train. The latter is one where I was really against it compared to other people. A lot of people enjoyed that film. I thought it was pretty lightweight and missed potential. And I think a lot of these films are missed potential. Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2 as well. I think that these are good ideas, but he couldn't really get everything I wanted out of them. And I feel like The Fall Guy is another case of that. When we get to about 2/3 of the way through The Fall Guy, we start to get a better understanding of what's going on, because there is a long period where you're not completely sure what's happening, it's a bit unclear, but then it does start to fill in some blanks. However, when we get to that point in the movie, it does start to feel like it's moving towards its end, but that's not true at all, because there is still a major action sequence to take place. And so for a film that's just over 2 hours, it actually feels a lot longer than that. A point to consider though is that in this film, we are seeing a film being made, and so there are lots of jokes about Hollywood, there are lots of meta jokes about the filmmaking process. Like for example, we do see conversations take place about how the third act should finish, and so we're constantly being reminded of the skeleton of the film, and so it's a bit like being in a classroom, looking at a clock. That class is going to feel a lot longer. I've been pretty negative on The Fall Guy, so we'll leave with a couple of positives. One is the soundtrack. I thought there were some pretty good music choices here, and also there were some good performances in smaller roles from Aaron Taylor-Johnson as well as Hannah Waddingham. And so with everything said, this was an average watch for me, and that's a disappointment because there's some great ingredients here which could have made a really fantastic film, but that was not the case. But have I been too harsh on The Fall Guy, or do you agree with my critiques? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you wish to watch another review on screen, are a couple right there for you.